Hey team, welcome back to the show. It is Coach Natalie today, and I am joined by Coach Jeremiah. Jeremiah, say hello.
Hello.
By popular demand, I am doing the intro. So thank you to all of those that have weighed in um, on who should be doing this intro. So in any case, we have a fun topic today. We are going to be talking through how to approach coaching the beginner client. And this is with regards to both training and nutrition. So Jeremiah, can you please kick us off with some updates? You just got back from
Absolutely.
Portugal.
Yeah, so first I want to clarify, no one actually wanted Natalie to do the intro. I am
That
just
is
hungry and I
untrue.
want to
I
go
have the
to eat.
receipts. I have receipts, screenshots.
Um, anyways, I'm stoked to talk about this though. This is a fun topic. I think it's really relevant to with so much of our audience, so many of our listeners being coaches, so many of our clients being coaches themselves. Really relevant to a lot of questions we get asked on that front. So I'm stoked to get into it. But yeah, on my end. So just
Or
got
wait,
back
did
to
you already catch up with Andrea earlier today? So are
No,
we?
actually, we were recording tomorrow. So I am catching up with you today, and I'm not telling Andrea shit.
Yeah, I
Um,
get the update. Okay,
um,
so for our audience, Jeremiah has just returned from a trip to Portugal, so this is like a good catch up here, as in terms of what he's been up to. Like, did he keep up with his calf training while abroad? So yeah,
I did keep up with my calf training, yes. Twice, I
can't
think I
tell,
trained
but
calves. I know it's you can't tell in 18 years. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was cool. Portugal was beautiful. I know you've been there, right? Were you just in Lisbon? Where were you at?
we flew in and out of Lisbon, but we also did Porto, which I loved.
Porto was by far my favorite.
Yeah, I saw you guys were there. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
Um,
Porto was incredible. We started in Lisbon, which it was like Lisbon, a super cool gym. It was called
yeah, I
Blackout,
saw. That looked sick.
but with a V instead of an A, so it was actually out. I think that's how you pronounced it.
Remember what
Uh,
neighborhood that was in? By any
n
chance? Oh, or no.
no, it was like 25-ish minutes from. It was like in It definitely wasn't in like Lisbon proper, to my understanding.
Okay, okay.
But well worth it. So, I mean, first training session, I was there. Of course, that was a priority. That was the only part of the trip I had planned is like trying to figure out gyms. And that was probably
The only pictures you have.
it. Genuinely though, that was probably the most well-equipped gym that I've been to. I think
Cool.
that second is FitLab 2.0, the gym that I go to currently here. And I saw it's been killing me because I saw in their stories they got a new shipment of like 10 Prime pieces and a bunch of other stuff. I know that they have the Prime Pec Tech now, which is supposed to be incredible, but I'm not sure what else there is. So I'm stoked to check that out. And I think it'll surpass. But, anyways, it was really,
Wait,
really
is
cool.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
FitLab they did. So I'm stoked to get back there. But yeah, trip was super cool. Porto, by far my favorite. We went to the Douro or Dordo. I don't remember which it is.
Or
Douro Valley.
wine
We like,
country.
yeah, we like went on a wine tasting that day. Really cool as well. Um, Drank. I'm not a big fan of port wine.
I I like it. Now, I went back in 2018 and this is when I no longer drink, but I did drink back then and I went to one of the port houses in Porto though, because like we didn't
Hmm.
do the Douro Valley.
Oh, that's cool.
We went to Graham's, which is actually like fairly well known for port wine if you're into it. But I do like it, and I liked doing like the tastings, so you can like all the
The
different age.
tastings are for sure fun. Yeah, like it's it is very much though, which is like the purpose, right? More like a dessert wine where you wouldn't just like drink a bottle
Slam a
of it,
bottle.
right? Um, which, but I mean, it was also like their Verde wine out there, super cool. Which I thought they made from green grapes, like
Vino
but it's
Verde.
just yes, but it's just like the grapes are like not as ripe yet. They're
Mhm.
earlier on. But anyways, I learned so we went on like four different wine tours where they told us like they took us through the whole process. Like so, I feel like I have it all down pretty well. And then like an olive oil mill as well. And then like that night we stayed at a spot that was it was actually a winery. My wife's big wine fan. It's for context here, because this might seem like kind of out of the blue because I don't like. I mean, I for sure like had plenty of wine like that couple days. We stayed at a winery, really cool. We like stayed in these like they looked like the little hobbit holes. Honestly, it was like a wine. It was like a giant wine barrel shaped like little our like little I don't know why I'm can't think of the words here, but our little house that we were staying in was super cool and just like on the winery. It was beautiful there. It was pretty cold still. I mean it was
Jackets on.
yeah, like the whole time I mean it rained a ton. I especially being in Arizona where it never rains, like I haven't seen that much rain in so long, but basically rained the entire time we were there off and on. And it was like 50s, but it was I mean it was still cool and it didn't it's like
Didn't
not didn't put a damper on the trip at all. No, like we were walking around the city doing all kinds of stuff, like doing different like food tasting tours and stuff like that, and it was just getting poured on and just kind of kind of like part of the experience, kind of fun in a way.
a lot of salted cod and potato.
I ate a lot of cod and a shit ton of tuna. Yes.
Sweet. I
Um,
actually forgot like how good their like canned fish is. Like they have like all like in the airport and like all these shops with like really like artistically
oh
designed.
yeah, beautiful cans.
I know it's so weird, but cool.
The attunement is very good. Yeah, but it was a fun trip. Um, definitely like a it was definitely like I feel like I would like my ideals just like I would lift basically like go to a bunch of cool gyms and do a little work every day. So it was like definitely different but good for me also to like get out of my what I would normally do. Um, and that is a big part of why my wife is so good for me as well. But then yeah, got back last night at like 9 p.m. What we basically left at like 11 p.m. our time, 6 a.m. their time, or 11 p.m. our time the day prior. So we are here 7 hours behind them. So basically took us like right under 24 hours to get home. And I definitely felt like when I got back, it was like I felt like it was like 6 a.m. I was like ready to go. I like had that like rush of energy again. I was like, oh geez, I'm pretty sure I'm still in Portugal time. And when I got up at 2, I was just wide awake. So definitely still kind of getting my body. I mean, it's a day back. So getting back on track there. But yeah, super fun trip. What I again did the whole fat loss phase for that, which is hilarious because I don't think I like definitely didn't do a single thing about my shirt on. So much warmer here than it is there. But yeah, we decided. Kyle, my coach, told me, hey, just kind of hang out maintenance, maybe even slight surplus ish, and we decided to do like another 4 weeks or so of fat loss after. So gonna be hopping right back into that. I mean, from that perspective,
You and
what's
Andy
that?
are both gonna be diced.
I know. I feel pretty good with where I'm at, but I for sure like feel like I can push it. It hasn't been hard yet, and I
Yeah.
for sure feel like I can push it. Uh, I don't know. I want to get leaner. It's been a while, and I'm good with it. Uh, but yeah, trip. I mean, from that perspective, it wasn't like a big foodie trip, if that makes sense. So like
Yeah.
most of my meals were like we did the like one like food tour thing, but it was like and these 6 people at the table like split this snack and we like try it. So like most of my meals were like almost all my meals that I ate out were like fish, and then I had like this just sack of this grocery bag of tuna, kiwis, and apples that I was just carrying everywhere. It was just so sticky from all the fruit juice. It was gross, but basically just smashed on that. And as of this morning, I was 213.8, which is a couple pounds down from where I was when I left. So interested to see how that plays out. But yeah, feel like it definitely don't feel like last time I left the country for my honeymoon, which I would definitely enjoy more food there than here. Like I was 15 pounds heavier when I came back.
It's also a
That's
student trip and longer.
yeah, much different too. I wasn't concerned about it. I was there. I was like, that's, and I have a lot of clients come back from their honeymoons a lot heavier.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, this is water and it falls off. And typically in that instance, it's like, dude, hopefully you only have one honeymoon. I always have to make that joke. Like,
Sure.
hopefully, just, and as long as you enjoyed it. And that was very much like, I don't know. So definitely like the context was quite a bit different. But yeah, what is going on with you?
Not a whole lot. Since you left, I think we overlapped briefly. Like I went to Columbus, Ohio for the Arnold, and then like came back, but then you left.
Oh yeah. What
So
was up?
I feel like Andrea and I talked about it a little bit on our Instagram live, but I didn't talk about it with you. But Arnold was super fun, just a really fun environment to be in. The expo was like super overwhelming because just like so many people and it's so hot in there, and like I feel like no one was like giving away anything cool. I was like, I don't really want to buy anything, and like I don't want to like wait in line to meet like a 20-year-old TikTok influencer or anything like that. Like there was a lot of that going on. But it was just like kind of being in the environment was really cool. And like being there with a couple of my friends, like who I got to link up with. And I saw like Nick Walker in person and like John
Were you
Jewett.
bigger than him?
Yeah, yeah. No, but like those guys are just so wide. And like honestly, I have to say honestly that was kind of like one of the things I was most interested in was like seeing people in real life like in their off seasons and like what that looks like on the day to day. But then also like they do it's really cool they do like the prejudging for I only got to see the prejudging for bikini just because
Yeah.
of when we got there, but they do the prejudging like in the expo. So you get to like watch that and then you go to like finals at night. And so it was cool to see some of those like bikini pros like in real life in terms of like, hey, like how do they compare to my body in terms of just like size and like seeing like wellness pros like IRL and like what they look like. So but it was really fun. And it's just I think I was telling Andrea like I didn't grow up with a lot of sports. I mean, my sports were like gymnastics and horseback riding and like figure skating and things like that. But you know, it's one thing I really liked about CrossFit, and like something I like about bodybuilding is like
Wait, did you say figure skating?
yeah, I didn't do figure skating, but like I followed it pretty avidly.
You watch Blades of Glory, is what you're
Of
saying.
course.
Okay,
Um,
I'm sorry, go on.
but you know, like it's like I never understood that whole like every Sunday people are watching NFL and you know and stuff like that like but it is cool when you find those sports or those things that are like interesting to you that you do enjoy following and like you kind of become a part of the community you know and then you have your favorites and like who you're like rooting for and stuff and you know like you know, like at the bodybuilding finals, you know, like oh, like man, I really thought like he brought the better look, and you know, but his quads and his upper body and his, you know, it's kind of cool to be a part of that like sports banter, like when you're following something closely.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, and to follow up our last discussion, I did have my bison burger at Ted's Montana. It was very good. Had a little American flag in it. Had some pepper jack cheese on it.
That did
Um,
look quite good. You
it
sent me
was
a
good,
picture of
and
that,
we went
right?
there 2 nights in a row. And I did like track it. So I tracked all weekend. Honestly, like I was eating tuna packets and rice cakes all day long, pretty much, like oatmeal. And then went out to Ted's, but it's like all the nutrition information's available online, so pretty easy. But it was really fun. I would definitely go back again. I'd be really curious to know how that compares to the Olympia.
Mm.
I hear Arnold is actually a little more fun, but of course there's no figure division there, which is annoying and weird. And then other than that, I haven't had any changes whatsoever to my coaching, my training and nutrition. So like I honestly can't really remember the last time I had a change. So I'm just training and eating. And
Oh
those are
yeah.
two things that I am really good at and I enjoy doing. So it's going well.
Those are two big strengths. Cool. What's up in your
Yeah.
love life? You going on any dates lately or anything there?
Let's move
Any good
on.
contenders for the Last to Love show?
Let's move on.
No, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that was such a good time. Did you get to meet Arnold?
No, but I did like he's like there front and center like at the finals and stuff and um
Give me your best Arnold impression of him saying Natalie Lewis.
I don't
Isn't
know.
that hard to like think
I,
about what that even sound like?
it is. All I can hear is like get to the chopper.
It's really hard to. Huh.
You
Okay.
see True Lies though, right?
No.
Oh my
What's
God.
that?
Oh, I keep forgetting. You've never seen like any movie ever, except Blades of
Yeah.
Glory, which is good.
You have to remember I was homeschooled
All
till eighth
right.
grade,
Okay.
so that's a big part of why I am the way I am.
Anyways, okay. That was a proper catch up. Into the topic though. So a refresher here. Today we're talking about how to coach the beginner client with regards to both nutrition and training. This topic was requested by a member of our audience, so thank you so much. We collected some answers to a survey in an effort to improve the podcast and bring you, the audience, more of what hopefully you want to hear and things you want to learn about. And so this was something that was requested. We know we have a lot of coaches that listen to this, um, but really, do you want to kind of get into why this is important?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that you should be able to, as a coach, like I still work with a decent amount of beginners actually, and it's a really good. I honestly think that a lot of times the beginner is a much more challenging client
Yeah,
than a more advanced client. You would think it would be the other way around, but that's rarely the case. There are degrees of nuance that we might need to get into with a more advanced client that might not be necessary for a beginner client, like that fun stuff to nerd out about. But I think that so much of the actual art of coaching, you learn that when you learn how to really work with people who are brand new to this process. I think of like one of my clients, shout out to my guy Cam, who's crushing it. But he just referred his aunt and super sweet lady, just started with her. But she's someone who's like very, very beginner, very brand new to all of this. And it is just such a, I don't know, I always enjoy like kind of coming back to that, like, it does really force you to kind of rethink and reanalyze your approach. But, anyways, why this is important is as a coach yourself, when we are starting out, I think almost all of us want to work with like very advanced clients. Like I initially thought I was going to be like a Joe Bennett hypertrophy coach. Like that was like who I thought I was going to be in the industry. Um, Definitely have not yet worked with any like Terrence Ruffins or anything of the sort. But to eventually, even if like long term you don't want to work with a lot of beginners, we still like again most of our audience is like people who really nerd out over the stuff, who are maybe coaches themselves or have a well above average interest in this, want well above average physiques. But as a coach, even if that's your long term goal to get there, you get there by like the people who will be willing to work with you at the start are going to be brand new to this. They are going to be beginners. So to get there, you kind of have to be willing to get your hands dirty, so to speak, metaphorically speaking only. Important when we're talking about coaching. Uh, I'm sorry, I don't know why I made that joke. Anyways, this is very important to ultimately like grow as a coach. And I see this is something I see like quite often when because I do feel like I talk about it with quite a few newer coaches about business as well. And a lot of times it's like I can tell you've kind of just phoned it in right now with like, here's where I like want my business to go, here's who I want to help. Right now I just like have these fucking people, right? And they're like a real drag and like I can't get anybody to do anything. And like right now I work with these people and it's like we have to get really, really good at helping those people to eventually get to the point where if you do want to work with more advanced clientele, you have kind of the credibility and the results to do so.
yep.
Anything else you would add there?
Yeah, this is where you cut your teeth, like as a new coach.
Right.
And it's really like the building blocks for every client you'll ever work with. Every client, of course, is unique and individual because we're all unique and individual human beings. But each like quote level of client, and when I say level, I mean experience level, okay? Um, brings with them their own challenges. So because I definitely thought back in the day, like, oh yeah, I want to work with more advanced clients. Like they're, because it's going to be fun and like it's challenging in a different way, But I think one of the real benefits of putting in your time with beginner clients is like you're really forced to simplify,
I would
and
agree.
like explain things the way you would explain them to a fifth grader. I'm not saying beginner clients are fifth graders, not by any means, but what I'm saying is like a lot of them don't want to nerd out about this stuff.
Right.
They just want results. Like they don't want to be a bodybuilder. They don't want to do a physique competition or like a photo shoot, Like this is the kind of coaching that has the potential to like truly change lives and like transform lives. Like it's, this is the client who maybe like doesn't even want to be there, but their doctor has told them that they're like at risk for type 2 diabetes
Right.
or something, and so it's that kind of whole like I kind of feel like I should. Man, if you can get that client results, you're a good coach.
Absolutely.
So it also will like build your confidence, which is equally important. The more confident you are, coaching clients, that that definitely kind of transposes onto your client's confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that like there's a big knowledge component that is important from a technical perspective, your
Mhm.
understanding of nutrition, training, etc. The more advanced clients, the more advanced the client you're working with gets. And unless we're talking about like functional cases, which a lot of times like a very beginner client might also be functional. There, of course, like the technical knowledge is very important. Just like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this person. They just need like basic nutrition and training strategy.
Yeah.
It's much easier with a beginner client than like a more advanced client. But from the soft skills side of things, which is such an important and underrated aspect of coaching, this is again where you really learn and master that. Yeah.
Communication. Um, yeah. Anyways, we're gonna get into all that, so let's go ahead and kick
Okay.
it off.
So when we're talking about coaching beginners, just any big picture thoughts on like what we might want to expect or keep in mind here?
Yeah, a few things to keep in mind. Number one is expect a lot of questions. This is something I consistently have to remind myself of. So remember that everyone starts somewhere. Remember that you started somewhere. And there was a time when like you didn't know that protein was important or why protein was important. Some of these things now that you might be saying to yourself, like, well, yeah, everyone knows that. It's like it's really easy to think, like, especially if you're a coach in this space and like you follow us and people like us and like podcasts like this, like I have to remind myself all the time, like, I'm in an echo chamber,
Mhm.
because I engage and interact with people on social media that I like and agree with and are knowledgeable and like feel similarly, in terms of like our coaching styles and things like that, so I have to remind myself sometimes, like, okay, not everyone knows this.
Right.
Like even if it seems like really, really, really basic, or even if I still get a question about like, hey, is it okay to like eat past 8 p.m. or is it okay to like drink diet soda? Like you got to remember, like there's so much information out there, and you're not on every side of the internet, of social media. So part of your job here is making sure that you're answering all their questions, not judging them for their questions. Yeah, and just remember where you started. So even if it sounds like repetitive to you or like, I can't believe I have to go through this again, it's like, well, yeah, because they're hearing it for the first time. You might be saying it for the 20th time, but they're
Right.
hearing it for the first time. Um, and then the other really important thing is establishing buy-in with the beginner client, and we're going to kind of get into some strategies for that later, but like you want to show them some wins because this
Mhm.
is how we build confidence, and the sooner we can kind of get them bought in and like hype about this process, the more enthusiasm they're going to bring to the process, which means the better results they're going to get, and then like you've got a client for life at that point.
They will literally never leave you. Your graves will be next to each other. Um, Sorry, I feel like not sleeping is my sense of humor is super weird today, so please bear with me, everybody. No,
That
I feel like what's that?
I don't think it's the sleep. I think that's just your sense of humor.
But I fully agree with all of that. It's one of the most important things I think is clarifying. It's okay to ask questions, and also it's okay. I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna push you, but also it is okay to not nail this perfectly right out of the gate. Right? I've never had a client go
And
through
they're
the
going to
process as
need like a
perfect.
lot of reassurance. Because again,
Yeah,
if they're a beginner, this is all like brand new for them.
yeah.
So like they're gonna be all those questions. There might be repetitive questions, but like they're going to need a lot of reassurance along the way.
I would say on the flip side, I think now reassurance, things like that, I think is important. But also, I know there have been times in the past where I babied my like
Mm.
more beginner clients too much. I had to remind myself, and I had to remind myself too, like, hey, they're here because realize they might not necessarily think this in the moment, but they want to be able to do a higher standard. They wanted to like change and grow. That's why I would say I definitely like to push and challenge my beginner clients a lot more than I used to. But when we're talking about the initial intake, so we have a beginner client starting with us. What would you say are typically the biggest things we're looking at in the intake to set them up for success?
The biggest thing is, and really I'd say this with probably any client, is like first we want to establish like what is the goal, right? Like what is the client looking to achieve? Um, and that could be like a specific, physical transformation. A lot of people come to us wanting to lose body fat or build muscle, usually some combination of both. And like I said, there might be some that do have health concerns, like, hey, I'm really looking to like better manage my, my blood sugar, like, you know, health concerns, things of that nature. So we need to be very clear on what the goal is. Um, and then from there, we also want to get a really good idea of their experience with nutrition and with training. And like on the nutrition side of things, like what is their knowledge base? Like what do they know? Like what have they tried in the past? Like what do they think works for them, or what do they think not doesn't work for them? But you really need to get a feel for like where they are. Um, in terms of like, hey, have they ever tracked their food? Like, do they know about protein?
Right.
Like, are they eating what are they eating? In terms of like, hey, I don't know, I just kind of eat whenever I feel like it. A lot of like, especially beginner clients, a lot will come to us with like no kind of set eating pattern. It's
Right.
kind of like I just, hey, whatever's like in the office for lunch, or like, and then I get home and I figure it out, or
Right.
something from there. So you need to get an idea of like their nutritional acumen there. And then like on the training side of things, we do like some movement assessments. And of course, we also like once we get into coaching, we have form videos, which are incredibly helpful. But I really do like to see like how the client moves, right? And like get an idea of their training history. So like, has this client ever set foot in the gym before? Maybe they tried some group classes, like Orange Theory, or CrossFit, or like a boot camp class or something like that. Um, but you want to get an idea of where they're coming from. Any, of course, injury history, movement restrictions. A lot of people will have, just concerns like, oh, I just have like a really dodgy shoulder, or like really bad low back. So, you kind of want to dig into that, because chances are, again, if this is a beginner client, you probably have a great opportunity here to improve some of those things. But also it's going to inform your programming as well. Um, you want to dig into like their relationship with food a little bit. So again, a lot of times this beginner client who I kind of alluded to, like doesn't really have an eating routine or schedule. So they're kind of like all over the map, and like a lot of times this is, they're kind of under that impression like the less I eat the better sort of thing. Like, well, I'm not hungry for breakfast, so I'm just not going to eat it kind of thing. Um, things to look out for, like good and bad foods, so to speak. Like, oh well, I eat clean, or like I try not to eat that because it's really bad. But you kind of want to get an idea of like, is there any fear there with foods, like, or eating? And that gets into dietary history, and like I said earlier, like what have they tried in the past that works or doesn't work? Um, and under that kind of subcategory, previous dieting history, current lifestyle. So what does their day-to-day look like?
Right.
What do they do for a living? How do they spend their Monday through Friday? What does their weekend look like? For a lot of people, that looks radically different than their weekday. So you need to know like what roughly like what a day in the life is like, because you're going to be making recommendations in terms of, like food. It's like, you know, telling a client to make like, like, something for lunch that requires them to like be in a kitchen and make it in real time isn't going to work if they have to go to work into an office, right?
Right.
Or someone who is just like, a shift worker, for example. Maybe they're like, a nurse and they're doing like night shifts. That's really important to know because that does require like a certain kind of strategy. Um, so yeah, current lifestyle, and also like what does their living situation look like? Do they live alone? Do they have a family? Kids? You know, are they like, is their partner supportive or like, I don't know, maybe their partner is into competitive eating challenges or something like that, Is it going like do you have a supportive partner or like is that going to prove to be kind of a challenging environment once we start getting into this? Um and that gets into like perceived obstacles. So you're going to like the more coaching experience you have, you're going to be able to listen to the answers to some of these questions and really put together like a narrative and your first hypothesis really in terms of like, okay, I think I know where this person is struggling. And I could see this being a potential obstacle. So we're going to need to work around this. But you also want to hear from them. Like, I always like asking, like, what are your perceived obstacles? Like, what do you
Right.
think poses the biggest challenge to you? And, for a lot of people, it's things like they're very time poor. Like, hey, I just don't have time. I don't know how I'm going to fit this in. Or, like, I don't, I eat out a lot or, or something. But it's always good to kind of get their input there because there's always some truth there, of course. Um, and so, based on all of this, remember we started out this category talking about like, what is the goal? Like, what is the client looking to achieve? So, based on all these questions that we just posed and kind of talked through, then we have to kind of assess like, is the goal reasonable? Right? Because your most important job as a coach really is to like set and manage expectations.
I
So,
fully agree.
if the client thinks that they like signed up for, Zac Efron on Baywatch or whatever, like I'm gonna get there in 3 months, and you've just taken them through like this litany of questions and like their lifestyle is so far from that end goal. We need to walk that back a little bit and like do a little bit better job setting expectations. I mean, I firmly believe that you can accomplish anything you want, but it might vary a little bit in terms of how long it's going to take you to get there. And then also like your job in terms of coaching and like managing expectations is really like through educating on like, hey, this is what this is going to take to get there. Are you willing to do those things? And so through that kind of collaboration, that's where you can really refine the goal.
No, I think that's huge. As a coach, regardless of client level, one of the worst things you can do is just, oh man, well, this person like really wants this result. I'm scared this person like won't work with me, or they're gonna be upset if I tell them they can't achieve that in this time frame, even though I don't think it's realistic. That is one of the worst things that you can do. Really, you will get so much more buy-in from clients if you're different, willing to be different from all the other people that have just like sold them pipe dreams and hey, no, we can't do that. We're not gonna be able to diet for I don't think at least like 4, 5, 6 months. Here's how this is gonna set you up for success long term. It is really interesting though how much more buy-in and like trust, just being straight up with things like that will get you from people than like, oh yeah, no, we can probably make it. We might be able to make that happen. Just don't. I wouldn't mince your words there. Um, yeah, I think really that initial conversation, be it like the initial call we have with clients, if you're meeting with people in person, just want to leave that with a clear, very tangible, objective physical goal to push the person towards. I think we're kind of moving past the like having physical goals is bad or vain. I feel like there was a really strong, like for a while, that was like a very strong sentiment, and everybody felt so bad about like having like any physical goals where it's okay, we all want to
So
look
I mean,
good.
not for us, but
Not
maybe
for us, yes, but
not for us.
um, but
I mean,
it is important.
I do really like to get an idea. Like you've said, I do like to get an idea. Like, what is the goal? Like,
Yeah.
what do you want to look like? We can't promise you someone else's results ever, of course, but like, what does success actually look like to you?
Yeah, no, and that's huge for me. That's one of the most important things because when we've done mentorships in the past, we don't do this right now. Um, but that is one of the most common mistakes I see when there's a disconnect between client and coach is they're not on the same page with the person's goals because they didn't take enough time to get clear on it. The person just said like, I want to get toned.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can get you toned. And that's, but we don't get any more clear than that. I always tell people like I should be able to draw a picture of the physique you want. Or now I actually have
Yeah.
people like submit pictures of, yes, we can't give you this person's physique, but here's kind of like an idea of what I want to push for. So when you give an idea of where their head is at, you can coach that
Like,
person so much better.
that's been so helpful
Oh
because
yeah.
you have something tangible to show them and say, okay, this result that you want.
Hmm.
Obviously, like we both have said, we can't give you someone else's results ever, However, this result that you want, this physique that we're staring at has a lot more muscle than you do.
Right.
So in order to look like this, here's what this is going to need to look like. Versus like a very nebulous idea of like, I just want to look more toned. It's like, well, I mean, truthfully, I understand what most people are saying when they say they want to look toned, but we could have very different ideas and in terms of what does that look like. I mean,
I would say like when I think of toned, I think of Natalie basically. Like you have like that long, like lean, long, like Pilates physique. Um,
it's that ballet background, those long limbs and slender muscles.
that is actually a good point though. Like I think especially with this population, don't be a dick and be like use their language. I think that's important
Yeah.
as well. Like someone says tone to me, I'll say toned right back to them, right?
It
Like,
really
yeah.
bothers me when people judge on that. It's like, come
I
on.
love the amount of social media posts about like tone, muscle tone isn't a thing, they only grow or I'm like, okay, thank you. So helpful for everyone.
Right.
Anyways, um, I mean other things that I'm looking for though, we want that very tangible, objective physical goal to push for. Anything like from a biofeedback perspective, hey, like is our digestion off? How's our sleep, energy levels, things of that nature. I'm also gonna look at body composition.
Mhm.
How much body fat do they have currently? How much muscle do they have currently? Which of these is going to be more important for getting to them their goal? Like when we're looking at this initial push, hey, does this person just need to get a lot leaner? Are they already pretty lean? They think they need to get leaner, but they actually need to build muscle. And then also, I mean, there are some things to look for based on how much body fat and muscle someone already has. Now, when we're looking at a beginner, typically they're just not going to have a whole lot of muscle regardless. So I think we can typically assume like muscle mass is going to be lower, which, hey, we're less likely to like if they want to look very toned at the end of a fat loss phase, less likely they don't have a lot of muscle, so something to consider. But it can also kind of start to dictate our path. Like if we have someone who's extremely lean, like let's say a woman below like 13, 14% body fat, biofeedback is probably not going to be the best. Like low energy, low libido, high hunger, probably going to struggle to build muscle, inconsistent cycle, might actually need to gain some body fat back. I would say that's less common in a beginner client. Typically, that is someone who has learned a lot about this, but maybe just hasn't prioritized the recovery and has pushed things too far in terms of leanness. I would say most people in this instance are going to be like, hey, I might need to lose about 10 to 25 pounds of body fat. Those are typically people who are a really good candidate for body recomposition. Usually won't have as much muscle as they think, or might need to gain more muscle than they think, might need to get a little bit leaner than they think. And just really, we're going to need to focus on a lot of basics. But honestly, it's a lot of like habit building, basic foundations, things of that nature. Or if, hey, this person has a lot of body fat to lose. Typically, they're pretty aware that something drastic needs to change, but and then we'll typically like buy in hard to things, but also then we have to make sure that we're not like feeding into that too much and looking at, okay, if this has this person like yo-yo dieted many, many times in the past, and what are we doing differently here versus before? Like, what's the deeper, not that there's always like a deeper meaning that we need to find or dig into, but a lot of times there is like a, hey, we're using this as a coping mechanism, and we also need to make sure we're not just ignoring that because I want to make sure you have really good results in 12 months, not just 12 weeks. Anything else you would add on the initial kind of question, kind of initial intake?
Yeah, the last thing I had here, I think is actually one of the most important. And honestly, again, I feel like almost everything we're saying here, like, can be applied to any level client. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you can really take this conversation and apply it to anyone. But one of the most important things I think is to assess the client's ready and willingness for change, because every client will tell you that they will do anything,
Right.
but it's your job to figure out if that's true. Um, Clients, when they say this, are not purposely lying or being deceitful or anything like that. They really do believe that's true, but they also don't know what they don't know. So, like, they're not in the weeds yet. They don't understand. So, like, as a coach, you hear, like, I'll do anything. You're like, sweet. Meal plan, ideal training split, like, bam, bam, bam. All you got to do is, like, execute XYZ, and, like, you're there. Like, 10,000 steps, 5 days training, meal plan, solid, because this person said they'll do anything. So you give that to them, and you start to find out, like, week one, like, oh, we didn't really make it happen. And that's when you start to see the cracks. And it's like, oh, we don't even necessarily have the skills to be able to, like, execute a meal plan, or and there I'd say, like, maybe we need to ask better questions, like, in the intake, in terms of assessing nutritional competency and level. But when it comes, like, what we're really coaching here is habit change, right? And habits are so deeply ingrained in people's lives. Like, this is, I mean, you're probably not getting many, like, college age clients. Probably not. We're going to assume, they're, like, in college, they probably don't have, like, money for coaching. So let's say post college. So let's say roughly like 30 or something like that. These people have been living the way they've been living for like 30 years. So to take them from 0 to 60, like, even if they purport to be all in, their mind might be, but I think, like I said, the cracks can kind of start to show here. So you really need to get a strong understanding of, like, how ready and willing is this person to make actual change, because realistically what you're looking at is making small changes over time, like taking
Y-
what it is they're doing and improving upon that before you just, like, pull the carpet out from underneath them.
Do you remember I think I showed you guys this infographic that like client stages of awareness stuff I talked about. I think we only talked about it a couple times.
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I probably need
Yeah,
to
again,
you out like you usually
referencing,
do.
this reminds me of like when we did more of the mentorship stuff because they
Mm,
like worked on this a lot more. Probably something that I should like talk about more because I do really find this helpful when I'm looking at exactly what we're talking about here. How ready is this person actually for change? Because that is going to really impact how I coach them.
yes.
I kind of split this up into we have three different stages. So we have a stage one client who is just unaware. They want results, but they're unaware their behavior is the problem, or they're unsure they're willing to change. So this is that person who's like, I do everything right, but I just don't know why nothing works. They might not be willing to push out of their comfort zone. They're kind of afraid to let go of their way of doing things. You can kind of tell they're still weighing the pros and cons of change, right? You might tell them like, yeah, we're not gonna diet for a while. Like, are you sure? I don't know. Oftentimes they have an external locus of control as well. So for example, that's that person when it's like, I go out for a restaurant. Well, like this is what everybody else at the table was ordering, and I had to order the same thing. It's like, did we have to? Like, just a lot of things are happening to them out of their control that throw them off plan, rather than internal locus of control being, I basically choose. I have control. I have power over almost everything. Example with food, unless someone's forcing food down my throat, I have control over it. Um, but I mean, how we would coach people, like for that person, we're gonna want to. Typically, that person isn't very clear on what their drivers for change are. Also, typically have like mismatched actions and expectations. Expect like more results from their more lackluster actions. But oftentimes, it is just like I just want to look better than whatever, or it's again oftentimes like very external driver in that like I don't know, this person says something about me or whatever, rather than like here's why change is really important to me, why I want it to happen. So oftentimes like we need to get deeper into that, get clear with them. Hey, here's what the problem is. Help them start understanding these places where they can take ownership and control. and like how much more is under their control than they might think. But also, like, this is a person where initially I'm not going to overeducate them or even challenge too many limiting beliefs or like false perceptions yet. Right? We talked about on our team call earlier about sometimes like if clients like clients like I want to do things this way, like I want to intuitively eat. For was the example we used. Um, and like, hey, here's why that's probably not a good idea for us. Ah, man, it really knows worked well for me in the past. Sometimes that might be the person where I let them dig their own grave for a week or two. Like, oh, okay, this isn't going well. In fact, we're going in the wrong direction. But rather than like me, yep, and here's why, idiot, right? It's gonna, not that I would say that to anyone, but it's going to be, okay, so what was the takeaway from this, right? Like, what do you think we need to do differently? Like, asking more open ended questions rather than just giving them solutions, really meeting them where they're at there. I won't spend that much time on all of these. Honestly, we might be able to make this into a two-part podcast based on where we're at. Yeah, and we're already 45 minutes in. Let's actually plan on this.
We should.
Do you think this is helpful to get into the rest of the like stage two, stage three, or not?
Yeah, I think so the way that I kind of thought we could lay this out was, getting through some of the things that we're talking through here and then get into like specific nutritional strategies, training strategies. So
Okay.
that could make a good part two.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's keep rocking through this then. So I mean, I'll keep it more
I
brief.
think
But base.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think the stuff that we're talking through today is so important. Because we're talking about just a lot of like mindset and framework and like challenges that you're going to face with the beginner client. So I don't
Absolutely.
I don't think I think we need to do it justice.
Absolutely. Okay. Cool. So I mean, stage two. So basically, our goal with a client is to move them from stage one to stage three. And this really dictates how we're going to coach that person. So, like, as from a coaching perspective, that stage one, that more unaware person, I'm probably, they're not really in a good place to make drastic change from a muscle growth. I mean, they'll see some change, but they're not in a good place for drastic change yet. So, my expectation that I set for them is crucial. I'm going to start that person with the expectation of, hey, we're going to focus on getting your habits in place. We're going to focus on improving things like your digestion, whatever it may be, like your biofeedback. We're going to focus on getting you in a really healthy, responsive position for fat loss or muscle growth. But like, hey, we're basically in a primer phase. Until we get these things dialed in, we're not going to be successful there. So we're building the foundation now. And might be a little bit of pushback, but over time, they'll start to trust you. They will start to see their physique change, and then you'll get more buy-in. And over time, we'll be able to kind of move them to this next level or this next stage. But if I started that person in like fat loss, this is the person who is going to be like, well, what the fuck, Jeremiah? Like, I paid you X amount of money and or nothing's happening. Like, why am I here? So this is very important to consider. So basically, then moving to stage two. Stage one, unaware. Stage two, problem aware. So this person sees the problem, but they're kind of unsure of their ability to get there. Basically, I know I need to change, just not sure exactly what or how. Typically they're gonna have, I would say, like both internal and external motivation, but typically they're still more driven by scarcity. Meaning that sounds kind of woo-woo. So meaning this person is a lot of times still it's very similar to type one to a degree. A lot of times it's like I'm afraid I don't like where I'm at and I need to get out of this place. And or I am afraid of going back to where I was rather than yet being like, I love this. I just love getting jacked and it's just fun for me, right? I love eating tuna, whatever, like we're not quite there yet. It's more so fear of staying or going back to where they were. But typically we'll still have doubts about their ability to follow through or be afraid their body won't respond, things won't work for them for some reason. And kind of flips back and forth between the internal and external locus of control. But they are receptive to a new approach. They've realized, hey, I need to change. I'm the issue. Again, just aren't quite sure what or how it is that needs to happen to get there. So, I mean, for this person, how we kind of move to the next level, we're clarifying what's the solution. Basically, hey, here's what I'm seeing. We can be more direct with this person, right? Here's why you're not making progress. And I would say most clients who start with us these days typically are at least here. Also, create more awareness around any ambivalence or self sabotage that they typically have. Because typically, this person does still have a, like, hey, we're saying we want this, here's where our actions are. So, there's some ambivalence here. That's the correct use of ambivalent, right? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Um, Basically reducing their fear of failure and change. And I mean, over time, like part of this is just even like that stage one to stage two, part of it is just, hey, we did it. We did the primary phase well. I have some buy-in from this person. Now we're getting into fat loss. Cool. We like racked up some wins here. Or even, hey, we got through our first fat loss phase. Maybe we want to lose 20 pounds and we dropped 10. So we made a lot of progress. Your body, like this works for you. Just giving that person examples of, oh, wow, I can do this. This will work for me. Typically, that's pretty easy. Honestly, as long as we've like established a good foundation, we're starting them in a good place. But I mean, really, I think for this person, again, just calling out limiting beliefs, misconceptions, we can be much more direct with this person. Making sure we lay out a clear plan to address any bottlenecks to their progress they have, really highlighting their success. And this is the person I find typically does appreciate a little bit more education and even like the like little bit more nerdy things as far as like, hey, we're gonna add some intra workout carbs. It's gonna make or break your ability to build muscle. No, but like, hey, these little things that just make it like more fun and exciting, and like that really gets more buy-in from this person. And then finally, our stage three is the aware client. They understand the problem, the solution, just need accountability and guidance to get there. I have a lot of clients who come in at this point these days as well. Basically, they're already doing things pretty well. They made decent progress on their own, just want to level up further. Internal locus of control. Motivation just comes from, I just love this stuff. It's fun for me. Basically, they're very coachable. A lot more of your coaching decisions will be based on, and the way you communicate, your communication and a lot of your decisions will be based on logic rather than emotion, right? Like that type one person, and there's a lot more like, how do I make sure that I frame this correctly to also get the kind of buy-in or emotional response I want, right? Like maybe it's ideal for this person to basically a lot more of our decisions are based around what is optimal rather than there's all these other variables we have to work around. Like, well, is this person going to be okay to do cardio 5 days a week, for example, or follow a meal plan or whatever it may be? This is basically where we nerd out, have a lot of fun with the most advanced strategies and things of that nature. Anything else on that? Any other thoughts there?
Just that, as we get towards the end of chapter one, I suppose, you're another really important part of your job with this client is that you are an ambassador for this lifestyle, for both training and nutrition. So I love to like talk on socials about like, oh, like I don't want to coach motivation, but like this is where you're actually going to have to coach some motivation. Like we all say that, like I shouldn't have to coach effort, but the reality is that you do and you will. Like, if training and nutrition is new, which it is because we're talking about a beginner client here, right? Like they're looking to you for ways to meaningfully incorporate these things into their lives. So like being an ambassador for this kind of life, and we talk about this all the time, like lead by example, walk the talk, and the things that we try to show ourselves doing, like on our Instagram stories and whatever, like show them how rewarding this life can be, and like finding the fun in it,
Absolutely.
because that's the real challenge of the beginner client. You've got to convince them, that this is the way, enough for them to do the thing consistently, because they do the thing consistently, they are going to get results, right? And usually when they get results, that's like they're in it for life. Like wow, as long as like you didn't make their life miserable in the process. But like show them like how cool it is to go to the gym and like be strong and like know what you're doing and know your way around the gym and the weight room, and like show them how cool it is to like take ownership of their nutrition, and like they can lead by example like with their family and friends. Um That's a really important part with this client, I think, because it's clearly not a lifestyle at that point, and it needs to be.
Oh yeah. I think that I said this many times, but like the standards your clients hold themselves to will be a bit below like 10-ish, 10-20% below the standards you hold yourself to as a coach. And again, working with a lot of coaches, I had a really interesting something I brought up with a couple of my clients this week who were younger coaches working with more beginner clients was, hey, so been a really interesting day. Like I have a couple women in their 40s who are moms, couple kids. Um, One, shout out to my girls, Carrie and Carly. Both of y'all just don't miss. They crush it. And Carrie, she has her own business. She has another job as well. She has kids. Her life is crazy. Carly, similarly, just traveling all over constantly. She's shredded. They both got shredded actually. But I was using them as examples of like, hey, we have kids, we have a job or multiple jobs, we have like a travel for work where it's like, hey, every week we're like living out of hotels, we're on the road constantly. Now, somehow these two have like they nail things every week. They never miss a cardio session, they never miss a training session. And it's really interesting to go from that to have like a couple like coaches who are in their like 20s, early 30s where literally like we work online, we set our own schedule, we don't have kids, they don't have kids. So it's interesting how like they somehow were able to find the time. Like, and the thing was like missing cardio, not tracking food for like these coaches versus like it's like it's interesting how they're able to find the time every week. Like they don't miss on that, but like we couldn't find the time this week to make that happen. And I think that's a lot of times like one of the biggest issues. As you said, you're leading by example is huge. Even if you're not great about sharing that, like I'm trying to improve. I'm
Should
not great about I know I'm not great about sharing like what I do on my story. I don't miss though. And it's it's
I
so huge. Go ahead.
I just think more people need to see. This is what I try to show, like for my incredibly limited social media following. But I hope that it comes across in terms of like, hey, I'm clearly hitting my training, my cardio, my macros, like all of those things. The occasional meal out. I'm in off season right now. It's okay. But like, I don't portray any of that with like, oh my God, this was so hard to do. You know,
Right.
like catastrophizing like all of these boxes I need to tick, you know. And a lot of that is where those like self-limiting beliefs come in. You know, like people
Right.
believing that it is just harder than it really needs to be. Like, is the thing actually hard, or is your perception of the thing the challenge?
Right.
You know, and like I again, I really try to kind of portray that on a daily basis of like, just like roll out of bed and like get this done, and this box is ticked, and then we're moving on to the next thing. You know, and I think that's important because again, we are talking about like, especially with the beginner client, like some pretty major lifestyle changes here, and they are really searching and like looking for ways, you know, to incorporate these things into their life. This is going to be like a new identity for them at the end of the day. I love to talk about my long-term client Samantha, Sam, who just had a birthday. Happy birthday, Sam. She's like
Also, funniest. I'm sorry, but her Instagram bio is I don't even have a plow. I don't even have a plan, but you know, but there's not even in there. The amount of times I've thought about that and just chuckle, just has it's in the hundreds. I probably think about that at least every 2 weeks and just have a little laugh to myself. So well done on that, Sam. But go on.
oh, but like Sam has transformed her life. She's transformed her physique too, but she's transformed her life. Like she, when she started, she was scared to step foot in the gym, literally.
She's a
Like
millionaire now.
she's no, but she's such a legend. But she's also like proof, you know, that it can be done. Like she's done it. Um. Anyways, you distracted
Sorry, I
me.
have a mouthful of food. Bad timing.
I know, and also now I'm thinking about plan without an N.
But point of that being, I would say, kind of wrap it up. One of the most common struggles with one of the most common issues I see when a not the only one, but very commonly when a coach is struggling with really not just this client population, any client population, it is because the coach themselves not doing the things that they're asking the client to do. And that's where like I'm a lot harder on coaches. Depends. But when it's in that instance, it's like, come on, guys, like there is no reason. Where this is like us being a leader is this is a job now. It's up to us to like lead the way here and like lead by example. And just again, like if your clients aren't executing, it is so commonly because you're not doing that yourself. So that's a very important, I think, kind of final thought to consider here. Um, Anything else you want to add, Natalie, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think if I keep talking, I'll probably just get into the part two.
Cool. All right. Well, next week we will talk a little bit more about like actual training, nutrition strategies, assessing progress, making adjustments from there. But for now, that is what we have for y'all. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Oh shit, I guess you should be doing the outro. Anything else you want to add to that outro?
Now I'll work on my outro for next time.
Cool. If you want to find Natalie, go to www.tinylats.com. If you want to
Wait,
apply,
an important announcement.
oh, okay.
I am opening my roster. So I've
Let's
got some,
go.
yeah. I'm
Also,
looking for people who want to get jacked beyond belief. No, but in all seriousness, like I absolutely love helping women build muscle. It is my favorite thing. And if you are listening to this and you have considered coaching, and you have big physique goals and you're kind of like not sure, like you're kind of doing all the things, but somehow like not sure if you're going about it in the best way possible for you, this is where I shine. I love helping people build muscle, and I promise you building muscle will do far more for your frame than losing 5 pounds of fat. So if you're out there and you're looking for a specific shape and you want to build that shape, but you also kind of think like, oh, but like if I lost 10 pounds, maybe, trust me, you need to build muscle. Let me help you with that. I've not opened my books in quite a while. And so I'm actually very excited to take on some fresh blood here and get some people jacked.
I'm stoked to hear that. It's about time. That makes me so happy because what I think there's been like a month. I feel like in at least the last year and a half, it's been a very long time. I remember when you were here to watch Inigo for our honeymoon, which was just like a year ago. You were talking about how your roster had been closed for so long. So
Yeah.
very rare, which is because you retain clients. Like, that's a very good problem to have. But you work with, I mean, Natalie's such a, you have such a good, like, diverse skill set because you crushed it with like people who are beginners and like leveling up big time. Like Sam's a great example of that. But such a good hypertrophy coach for that person who does want to just build tissue and take it to the next level, like nerding out over the nuances of training, helping people just refine their execution and like get so much more accurate in their training. So yes, definitely. If you would like to work with Natalie, you say DM you, link in the bio. You have a preference there?
Either or. If you want to ask me anything about my coaching style, me, what coaching is like, feel free to shoot me a DM. But I do have an application link in my bio. And we will definitely get in touch with you from there if you fill that out.
I love it. All right. Well, we will leave you guys at that for now. As always, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week.